Hi everyone, this is Kathy from K-Dill Handmade, and I wanted to welcome you to my video tutorial for the Memento Mori Wristlet, which is a pattern by Seamingly Wicked. And this video is premiering as the third video for me in the Halloween Sewing Marathon put together by the Marathon Sewciety. And I just wanted to thank everybody for joining along all this month and for supporting all of the designers and the other makers as we go through our videos and make all these different really fun spooky themed makes. So today we're going to be going over how you make this Memento Mori wristlet. It's almost a tongue twister. There's a PDF pattern printout as well as pattern pieces. So let's go ahead and go over all of the pieces that we're going to need for this pattern. Okay, so let's go over the pieces that we're going to need. We're going to need a strip of fabric, or you can use ribbon. The measurements are provided in the pattern, and that is going to make your card slots. If you are doing the optional wristlet, you will have the pieces that you're going to be making your wrist strap out of. There are options for webbing, for fabric, and then I am using cork for mine. So I have those two pieces. You have a cute little zipper with a zipper pull, and I'm using this skull zipper pull is from New Moxie. And then let's see, the other hardware you're going to need, if you're doing the wrist strap, you're going to need a lobster clasp to go with it. Then you also have in here, you're going to have the pieces for your snap. So you have those 4 pieces, and that will go on the tab that's going to go on the front of, or on the card slot slide of the wallet, so that will secure all of your cards. Optionally, you can use a business card, credit card, and that will help to measure the card slots. There is also a template provided in the pattern if you would rather use that. Okay, there is an ID window. So there's an accent border piece for that. And then you also need a piece of vinyl that will go behind the ID window. There is also an option in the pattern if you wanted to make the window to be a vaccine card size. So if you wanted to hold your vaccine card in there, that is provided in the pattern. You have 2 of your, this is the tab that's going to go over your card slots. So there's going to be secured with a rivet and then a snap on the other side. You have 2 tiny little zip tabs. You also have your rivets. So I have 2 rivets here. If you are making the wrist strap, you'll need one for the rivet, or one for the wrist strap, and then the other one to attach your tab here to the wallet. I'm also using this label here. This is provided by Heartwood and Hide, and I wanted to thank them for providing this label that I'm going to be using in the project today. Okay, then for your main pieces, you're going to need, this is your card slot panel. And as you can see, I've already cut all the pieces for that. So that's the one side. That's where your tab is going to fit over here to secure your cards inside here. Okay, so you have one of those. And then your other piece, you're going to have another main outer piece. And then you're going to have 2 lining pieces. So I'm using waterproof canvas for this. For the outer, I'm using cork, and for my wrist strap, I'm using cork. For the card slots, I'm using just cotton woven, just a scrap of cotton woven. And then the pattern also provides instructions for attaching the wrist strap by a grommet. So if you don't have grommets, I'm going to show you an option on how you attach the wrist strap just with a little D-ring, and I'll show you those pieces when we get there. And then if you are doing the D-ring attachment for the wrist strap, again, like I said, the wrist strap is optional, so you don't have to include it. But if you are, you will need, if you're using this method, you will need a D-ring, and if you're using the grommet, obviously you would need the grommet. Okay, and I think the only other thing we're going to need is scissors, double-sided tape, and yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little prep work. If you are making the optional wrist strap, what we are going to do is with this one, I'm just using 2 pieces of cork, and they are raw edge. I'm just going to be placing them wrong sides together, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around. And then this is an option. If you want to, we'll trim it up after we get it all top stitched, but this is a great option too. If you wanted to edge paint, you could edge paint the sides of your wrist strap before you attach it to the wallet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of double-sided tape and lay it down the middle. Removing the paper backing, and then placing the other piece of cork right on top of that, trying to line it up as best as I can. And then, like I said, we can always trim it after we get it stitched, and that will make sure that our pieces are, as you can see, this one here, I cut this one a little bit long and it's a little bit off here. So that's a great way, after we stitch it, we can make sure that our edges are nice and flat, so that when we want to, if you want to edge paint it, you have a nice flat edge to paint on. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm just going to take it to the machine, and I'm just going to top stitch all the way around the outside of this strap. So I'm going to set that to the side and take it to the machine in a minute. Optionally, if you are doing the D-ring to attach your strap to the bag, I'm just going to put a piece, I just cut a little piece, I don't know, this is maybe 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to put a piece of, this is Grosgrain ribbon. It's going to be hidden on the inside, so you're not going to see that, but that just helps to give the strap a little bit extra strength, so that it's just not a single piece of cork there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slide this over the top, and we'll attach it later. But optionally, if you want it to match, you could just top stitch along both long sides of that. And I think I'm going to do that just so that it stays consistent looking with all of the rest. Okay, then the last piece we're going to prep for right now is you need your clear vinyl ID window, and then your accent cover. On the back of that, we're going to be attaching, again, double-sided tape. Okay, then removing the paper backing. You're going to take your clear ID window and lay it right on top of your accent panel. Okay, and that's just to hold it in place. Now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be stitching around the inside of this window to hold the accent frame onto the card window. And then if you have, I don't know if you can see here, but I have a little bit of an overhang here with my clear vinyl. So once I get that stitched around the inside, I'm just going to go ahead and trim off any vinyl that is overhanging anywhere. And then these 3 pieces will be ready for the next step. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've top stitched all of these pieces. This is the wrist strap stitched all the way around, and then I've trimmed all of the edges. So that one is ready. The D-ring tab, I just stitched down both long sides, attach the D-ring, and then we can set this to the side for now. And then your card window stitched all the way around the inside, trimmed off any clear vinyl that was overhanging, and this one is ready to set to the side. Now to finish the wrist strap, since the majority of my cork, or the majority of my project is going to be this cream colored cork, and then my accent is going to be the purple, I think I want my wrist strap, the outside of my wrist strap, to be purple with the inside being cream. So to do that, I'm going to just take my lobster clasp and slide it over. Let's see, I'm sliding it over probably about an inch. Let me grab a ruler here. 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm taking the other piece of cork and I'm just meeting it up to the bottom, or to where that hardware sits for the lobster clasp. Folding this over the top edge, making sure everything aligns nice and neatly, and then right here at that point right in the center there, I'm going to make a little dot, and then that's where I'm going to attach the rivet. So I'll make sure that's centered when I take it to the hole punch, and then I will punch through all of these, attach the rivet, and then the wrist strap will be done. Okay, so here you can see where I punched the hole. Now I'm going to take one of my rivets. I'm going to place it through there. Take the cap end, attach that. Hear that little snap, so you know it's set. And then I just have a table press here from Cam Snaps, and I'm going to just set that rivet right now. And there you go. Wrist strap is finished. Okay, and I will go ahead and link to the Cam Snap table press in the comments section, or in the description of this video, so that if anybody doesn't have one and is interested in getting one, you'll know where to find it. Okay, now the last piece of prep work we have is the card flap. So those are the 2 strips that we are going to use, and that's going to snap over where your card slots are to secure your cards in the wallet. So taking these 2 pieces, I'm going to lay them right sides down on one of them. I'm just applying a piece of double-sided tape down the center. Remove the paper backing, lay the other piece on top, wrong sides together. So both of these pieces are right sides out, wrong sides together. Okay, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around the outside, and then if there's any trimming that needs to be done, like I can see there's a little bit already that's overhanging, I'm just going to trim that after I get it top stitched. Okay, so that is all stitched. I trimmed any edges that I needed to trim. Now the one thing that I didn't mention is working with cork, sometimes you'll get a little bit of a fuzzy end, a fuzzy side. So what I will do a lot of times is I'll just take a lighter and quickly just run it along the edge. Be careful, don't hang out too long, and then I'll singe the ends of my threads. And then that just kind of cleans up any fuzzy edges that you might have. And I would do that to any of my cork pieces. Here, this one you might be able to see a little bit better. There's a little fuzz there and a fuzz there. So it just cleans it up nicely. And I would do that to any of the raw edges. I'll do that to the whole wallet at the very end. And then I probably would also just run it along the edge of this. So that's just an optional piece. If you notice that you have any little strings hanging off or any little fuzzy edges. Okay, so now that all of these are prepped, we can set them to the side and get on to the next step. Okay, the next step is attaching the card ID window to the one main panel of your wallet. So this is not the part that has the card slots. This is just the plain piece. Okay, and then we're going to need our ID window. And again, if you're using just an ID window or the vaccination card window, that will fit here. You can center it, you can put it closer to the bottom, maybe if you wanted to add a little something up here. Really, where you place it on this panel is up to you, personal preference. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a piece of double-sided tape. That's my friend. I know it feels like you either have a love or hate relationship with double-sided tape. Or maybe you're just trying to trick your friends and thinking that you don't like double-sided tape. But really, you love it. You know who you are. Okay, so what I've done is I've just put double-sided tape on 3 edges, leaving the top open because obviously we need to be able to slide our card in there. And I'm just going to center my panel as best as I can here. And I'm just going to, it needs to be over to the right just slightly. Let's see how close I can get this. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to press it down. And then I'm going to top stitch on this outside edge just along the 3 sides, attaching the ID card to this panel, top stitching just along the side, the bottom, and then up the other side. Okay, once that is stitched on, again, making sure you leave this top open. You can test it to make sure your card fits inside nicely. That looks perfect. So this panel is all done and we are ready to move on to the card slot panel. Okay, so the next piece we're going to be working on is the card slot panel. So you will need your other card slot or your other outer panel. And what I've already done is I've already marked where all of the holes should be, as well as cut the lines between the 4 card slots. There you go. And then this is going to be rivets and snap holes, so we'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing we need to do is we need to make the card slots. So flipping it over to the back side, you're going to take some double-sided tape and you're going to place it just below each of those lines that you made. Maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so, 1/8 of an inch. You just want it below each of those slit lines, and then you want one above that, and that's just going to hold the top of your card slot fabric or ribbon, whatever you're using to make your card slots. Okay, so I'm going to do the first step here, and then we're going to go over to the sewing machine so I can show you how to make each of the card slots, because we have to stitch each line as we go. So I am going to show you how to do that. First thing we need to do, though, before we do that, is with this little card slot position pattern piece, we're just going to line up each of these card slot lines with each of the lines that we made in the pattern. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit, make sure my lines are still lined up, and then we're going to mark the 4 fold position lines. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my ruler. I don't think you have to do this, but I just want it to be real easy for me to see when I'm over at the sewing machine. I don't want my fabric covering it up at all, so I'm just going to draw a line, a much wider line, all the way across here. Okay, so I've got my 4 fold lines marked. Now the last thing before we get started on attaching this is if you are adding a label, which I'm going to do, I'm going to add it down here at the bottom of my panel. So I think I probably want to put it with this line here, maybe centered across there. So let me put a piece of double-sided tape on my label to help hold it in place. And then this is probably about 1/2 inch up. It might be more actually. 3/4 of an inch up. And then let's see how far I am in from each side. It needs to go a little bit to the left. Quarter. Nope, I went too far. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so once you have your label, if you're attaching a label wherever you want it, either on this panel or on this other card ID panel, you could put it there too. For instance, if you had maybe a round logo or something smaller, you could always stick it here if you wanted as another option. I'm going to put my label here. What I'm going to do now is just top stitch around the outside of that label to attach it. Then I'll be back. I'm going to leave some long tails and pull it off through to the back side and tie it off. And then I'll show you how we start attaching our card slots. Okay, so I have my label stitched on. If you haven't seen this method before, I was just going to show you how I pull my strings through to the back. So I've left long strings on the front and long strings here on the back. And let me just zoom in here to show you. Hopefully I can show you a pretty good view there. But what you're going to do is with each of your long strings on the back, you're just going to give it a slight little tug. And I don't know if you can see there's a little loop that pops up when you do that. And so you're just going to gently pull that through to the back side. Same for this one. There's the loop that popped up right there on that one. So try and grab that. You can use, if you have a pin, I've also used seam rippers to do this. You just got to be careful you don't accidentally cut your string. So I will pull all of those through to the back. I'll have 2 and 2 in each hand, and then just tie it off. Usually I tie a knot about 3 times, and then that's it. Okay, trim off those extra strings. There we go. All right, and as you can see there, oops, whoa, sorry about that. I forgot I was zoomed in. All right, one second, let me back up here. Okay, so now you can see there is no, you can't tell where I started and stopped in my stitching around on that label. So that's just one option. You could always do a couple back stitches if that doesn't matter to you, but that's just one option on how you can attach those labels and tie them off so that it looks like it's just one continuous line. Okay, now on to the back. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to take our fabric, ribbon, whatever you're using to make your card slots. You're going to remove this first piece of double-sided tape. So just under that first card slot, you're just going to remove the paper backing on that piece. And then we're going to lay the card slot, you're going to lay not the card slot, the fabric, you're going to lay that down with the raw side down. So you want to center it as much as you can. Make sure that you're covering the full slits and the holes there. I have a couple inches, maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches or so down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to top stitch along. So if this is your wallet here, just top stitching along the bottom line between the 2 dots. Okay, so let's head on over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how we do this step by step. Okay, so here we are over at the sewing machine. You have your panel all ready. And so what I'm going to do is just top stitch along this bottom line here. And on this one, I think I'm just going to do a couple back and forth stitches just to hold it. Okay, once you get those strings trimmed up, what you will have is this with the stitch line just across that bottom slit. Now flipping it over to the back, remember we have our drawn lines here, so we want to flip this panel down, so you're now looking at the right side of your, if you're using fabric, it's the right side of your fabric. If you're using ribbon, it probably doesn't matter, unless you're using a printed ribbon. But we're going to fold that down right along that stitch line, and then all the way down here to our bottom fold line is where we want, I'll do it this way so it's a little easier to see, where we want to fold it up. So we're folding it up and away, right? And then I'm just holding this here at the bottom. I'm going to remove the next piece of paper backing, if I can. There we go. All right, and then folding this up, holding that bottom card in place. I'm just going to press that down, and now that makes our first card slot. Okay, and then we're going to flip it over, and now, because that is up at that second card slot line, we're going to top stitch along the second card slot, the card slot opening. So just like we did on the first one. All right, let's try this again now that I have a new bobbin. Of course, I should have known the bobbin was going to get me today. All right, so stitching across that line again. Okay, trimming off those loose strings. This is probably the piece that takes the longest when making a wallet with card slots like that. Okay, so there's the second line stitched on. And then as you can see, here's the card slot. The first card slot works great. Okay, now we're going to push this, we're going to fold this back down again right along this fold line. And then I'm going to remove the paper tape, paper backing. I'm going to do that first this time. And then lining my card up with that second card slot line, I'm going to flip my ribbon or my fabric strip back up, straightening it out nice and flat. Okay, pull the card out. Now we're going to stitch along this third line. third line done. You probably have the hang of it by now. We're going to flip it back down again along that fold line. Remove this paper backing. Put my card here at the third card slot line. Fold it up. Make sure it's straight. Remove the card, flip it over. Now we're top stitching along this top slit line. Okay, so that's now stitched on all 4 lines. Last piece we need to do is we need to, again, fold it back down on that fold line. This is our last piece of double-sided tape. I'm going to now put my card at that top card slot line. Fold it up. Make sure I'm lined up against that line nice and straight, and then pushing it up. Okay, so now that actually makes our top card slot. Okay, now you have an option if you wanted to do a stitch line right at the top here. I think I'm trying to think here. An option you could do is you could add a little bit of fabric glue and then just glue this here, and then you wouldn't have that top stitch line. That's what I think I'm going to do. I might add a little bit here at the bottom just to hold it nice and snug against this top here. Basically around this circle is probably what I'm going to do. Just to hold it in nice. Or you could, like I said, do a top stitch across the top of that line. And it doesn't matter that it's covering this hole, because we are going to be adding some stabilizer to that as well. So we'll just punch a hole through this fabric when we get to that point. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll go back to the table. I'll show you what I'm going to do over there, and then trim this extra fabric, and then we are ready for the next step. Okay, so here we are back at the table. What I need to do is I just need to secure this top a bit. I do have double-sided tape there. I'm just going to pull that back a little bit because I want to add a little bit of extra glue. So what I'm using here is Beacon Fabric Tack. It's safe for cork and it dries pretty quickly. So I like that. Just adding a bead there, and then I'm just going to go just add a little bit up and around. There we go, flattening it out. I got a little extra there, so I'll just wipe that off. Okay, and then using my fabric scissors, I'm just going to trim off the fabric, keeping it away from the edge of the outer main panel. It doesn't have to be a perfect cut, you just need to keep it out of the way. There we go. I'll trim off a little bit more right here in this corner. Maybe. Okay. All right, so there we go. Now our card slot, so that'll dry as we're finishing making the rest of the wallet. So now what we need to do is we need to set the male part of the snap. So the male part of the snap, there's 2 pieces to it. There's the piece, this piece sticks up a little bit more, and then this one will go on top, and this one sticks up just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is moving these card slots out of the way. You want to make sure you flip all your card slots up so you don't accidentally snap them closed. Seal them closed. That would be terrible after all this work. So I'm just going to punch the hole again so that I have the hole through my fabric. I'm also going to use a piece of Decoville Heavy. Just going to punch a hole in the center of that, and that's just going to help. Let's see here. Yeah, that should fit. I'm just going to trim it a little bit so it's not too close up next to the, there we go, next to the, the stitch line. Okay, so now I'm going to take the piece that has the larger piece sticking out. I'm going to put it through the Decoville Heavy. I'm going to put it through the hole. Again, making sure your card slots are all flipped up and out of the way. And then I'm going to put the smaller piece right on top. And then bringing it over to my table press, I have dies that will set snaps. So I'm using that for this one. Okay, so there is that part. So now we can press all this back down. And if you want to, if you're using fabric, if you wanted to iron these to help them lay nice and flat, you can. You don't have to, it's just an option if your fabric seems to be kind of poofy. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is we need to attach the female side of the snap, and that's going to go here on top of all of your card slots. Okay, so I'm going to take my die, let me quickly switch out, or take my table press, I should say, quickly switch out the dies. And again, I got these dies from Cam Snaps. You can get them, I think Gold Star has them as well. There's a couple places around. All right, so let's see here. All right, so there is the front of my snap installed. So what I can do now is make sure it's lined up. There we go, snap it on. And then there is that hole there. And I'm just going to line it up and punch the hole through there. And then I'm going to set that with a rivet. So let's see. I'm just going to mark, no, I glued that down. Well, all right, we're just gonna do it this way. I wanna make sure it's straight, lining it up there. Okay. I'm gonna use my Japanese hole punch so I don't have to move this too much. There we go. Sometimes it takes, especially going through all these layers. I'm going through cork and fabric, possibly some glue. There we go. Now it's the hole. All right, so then I'm going to take my other rivet, pushing it through, take the cap and set that on there. Okay, and then taking that over to my other table press, I'm going to set this rivet and I'll be right back. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to attach the tab ends to the ends of the zipper. I'm using a little bit larger zipper, and the tabs that I had cut out previously were a little bit too small. So I just cut extra tabs and I made them larger, and then I'll just trim them down at the end. So what I'm doing is I'm using cork so I can keep the edge raw edge, and that's totally fine. I'm just folding it over the edge of the zipper, and then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and just top stitch down each of those tabs, just right along at close to the raw edge there. Okay, now that those end tabs are stitched on, what we want to do is, again, grab your double-sided tape, and we're going to lay a strip right along the long edges of your zipper. And then we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing on the back side. Okay, so now flipping it back over to the front, we're going to take the zipper tape off, or the zipper tape, the paper backing of the double-sided tape. We're going to take that off. You want to keep your zipper pull out of the way, and then what you want to do is you want to center your panel over the edge. So I'm just covering up that zipper or the double-sided tape, so it's probably about 1/8 of an inch or so centered. So you want the same amount of space on both sides. And you can see I'm just barely up over that edge. Okay, and then on the same for the other side, or I should say for the same on the other side, we're going to lay, so we're laying the flat or the bottom parts of the tombstone towards the zipper. So this is going to be towards the bottom of the wristlet. Let's see, straighten that one out a little bit. Okay, now flipping it over, we're going to remove the paper backing on the other side. And because I am using waterproof canvas, I do not have to turn under any of the sides. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off just slightly, a little bit from each of the edges. And that's just because I want to keep it out of view when I attach the when I fold the wallet together. This step is not written or provided for in the instructions. This is just me. This is my personal preference to help keep it out of that, out of your, what am I trying to say? You know, so nothing's poking out once you turn it together and then sew it. So I'm just doing this from the sides and the top. Okay, we get this out of the way, and then let's see how that looks. So if I line that up, because I still want it pretty close here on the edge, and it looks like I might need to trim a little bit more. It's good on the sides, a little bit more on the top, and then a little bit here at the sides of the base of the tombstone, I guess I could call it. So I'm going to cut a little bit more out of there. A little more out of there, and then a little more here from the top. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to press that down. And I'm going to just add some clips in place around the sides and the top just to help hold it until I can get it over to the sewing machine to stitch it down. And again, if you're using canvas or cotton woven for this, you are going to want to fold in this bottom half just slightly so you don't have that raw edge. But because I'm using waterproof canvas, it's completely okay to leave this as a raw edge here. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing the same to the side. Okay, just a little bit more here off the top, off the angled top. Okay, and that looks pretty good as well. Now optionally, you could take a little bit of glue if you're using fabric, and you could put glue here to help hold this down. I am not going to do that. Actually, I'm going to do it on this side. This side I'm not going to do it on because there's card slots over there, and I don't want to accidentally get some glue or have some glue move as it's drying and then it glues a card slot closed. So I'm just going to do that on this side and smooth that out. Okay, and then again, just adding a couple clips. Okay, now I'm going to take that over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch down, top stitch down both flat sides only. So only along this edge and then along this edge. Okay, and we are almost done. All right, so that is top stitched down both sides here, making sure it caught on the back side. All right, so now the last thing we need to do is close it up. So we're going to fold it up, matching up those bottom edges. And I'm probably going to add more clips than I usually do, just because I want to make sure this doesn't shift at all while I'm stitching. So we're just going to clip it all the way around, making sure everything lines up. And then if there's any trimming that I need to do at the end, I will do that after I get it all stitched together. Like right there, it looks like there'll be a little bit of trimming that I need to do. That's okay. Okay, so now that that is stitched, let's go ahead and I will say, if you are adding, this is where you need to figure out before we stitch that, if you are adding the D-ring tab, figure out where you want it to go. If you want it on the side, if you want it on the top. In the pattern, if you're using an eyelet or a little grommet, that's like gremlin and grommet together. Yeah, new word. Okay, so she puts it right in the corner. So you could put your D-ring sticking out of the corner here. And I think, actually, I think that's where I'm going to put mine. Because I was thinking to put it here at the top, but I think on the side would be cute so that it kind of is on an angle. And I'm going to put it at the side where the zipper closes. So that way when it's hanging this way, you know, the zipper is here versus the zipper at the bottom. I just think that'd be a little more secure to put it on that side. Okay, so I'm going to, let me just slide this in. I'm going to slide it in between. So let's see, I don't know if you can see this. So I have the outers and the linings. Instead of sliding it in between the two linings, I'm just going to tuck it in between an outer and a lining, and then that way you won't see it on the inside of the bag. And I'm just going to tuck that down in there as far as I can, because it only needs to stick up just a little bit to hold the D-ring, right? So I'm going to put it right there. All right, and then clipping in place. Okay, there we go. If you are not adding the optional D-ring, you can go ahead and just top stitch it. If you are adding the D-ring, make sure you stick it in before you stitch all of this together. So now the last thing we need to do is we just need to, starting at one end, we're just going to follow this shape all the way around, top stitch, all the way around, back stitching at the beginning, at the end, and we are just about done. All right, so that is all top stitched all the way around. There's my D-ring connector there. I did a couple little back stitches here just to make sure that it was a little extra secure card slot. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my lighter and just go quickly around the edge to make sure that if there are any little fuzzies sticking out, that they go away. You don't want to hold it too long because you don't want it to singe the cork. Just enough to help clean it up a bit. All right, and then right there on my thread ends, I'll do that one more time. There we go. All right, and then the last thing to do is to connect the wrist strap. And there you go. There is the Memento Mori wristlet from Seamingly Wicked. Guys, it's so cute. Let me see, where's my card? Let's see. So you put a card in there. So you have your ID in there. And then here you have 4 card slots that you can use. A nice snap so everything stays secure. Cute tag from Heartwood and Hide. Cute zipper pull from New Moxie. And then inside the zipper pocket. Guys, it's so cute. This one was a really fun one to make. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Here, let me turn my skull over. There we go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video tutorial. If you did, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me know what other kinds of video tutorials you would like to see, and we'll get to it. I hope you enjoyed, again, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I hope you've really enjoyed these Halloween sewing marathon that we've been doing the first 3 Saturdays in October with the Marathon Sewciety. And I know I've had a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed chatting along during the live premieres with everybody. And yeah, this is just really a lot of fun. I again wanted to say thank you so much to the designer for allowing me to use her pattern to do this video tutorial. And again, I'm going to link to the pattern and the materials that I used during this video today. That will be down in the description. Please support the designers, support the other makers. Make sure you tune in. And if you aren't able to watch all of the videos, or if you wanted to rewatch any of them at any point, check the Sewing Marathon or the Marathon Sewciety. It's just Marathon Sewciety. And again, I'll link this in the description. The Marathon Sewciety's YouTube page will have playlists for all of the marathons that we do. And yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I got. Hopefully you stick around for the next video, and hope you have fun sewing.